There's a specific kind of person who hears, "party this weekend," and immediately starts drafting their internal excuse. It's not because they're depressed, and it's certainly not because they're struggling with social anxiety. It's much simpler. They just genuinely would rather be anywhere else than in a crowded room. Maybe this sounds familiar to you. You aren't trying to be difficult, and you aren't hiding from the world out of fear. You're simply protecting a space that feels more like home than any social gathering ever could. For a long time, society has labeled this behavior as antisocial or even damaged, but psychologists are realizing that the old labels were completely wrong. Sometimes what we call a social failure is actually a highly refined form of self-awareness. To understand this, we have to look at the brain's relationship with dopamine. Extroverts often possess a dopamine system that requires high levels of external stimulation to reach an optimal state of feeling good. They thrive on the energy exchange of a loud room or a fast-paced conversation. However, people who prefer solitude often have a more sensitive dopamine system. Think of it like spice tolerance. Where an extrovert needs a massive dose of stimulation to feel just right, a person who loves solitude reaches that same peak with a fraction of the input. This isn't a deficit. It is a neurological difference in how the nervous system regulates arousal. You aren't low energy. You are simply calibrated for a different environment. I remember reading about how Einstein viewed his best years. It wasn't in the middle of a lecture hall or surrounded by peers debating theory. It was in the quiet spaces, on long solo walks where the world's noise finally faded out. There's a reason why our most transformative ideas rarely strike us in a crowded coffee shop. When we're surrounded by people, our brain is constantly scanning for social cues, trying to decode the room. But in solitude, that task disappears. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for complex problem-solving, gets to stop scanning and start building. It's like clearing a cluttered desk so you finally have room to write. Sometimes, being alone is the only way to hear what you're actually thinking. We have to distinguish between healthy unsociability and avoidant behavior. Unsociability is a calm, confident preference for your own company, rooted in a secure sense of self. Avoidance, however, is a defense mechanism built on fear. Ask yourself, are you choosing solitude because it fills you up or because leaving feels too heavy? Healthy solitude comes from a place of abundance. You know you can connect, but you prefer the quiet. Avoidance is an armor you wear to protect against rejection or judgment. If your isolation feels like a shield, you aren't actually enjoying the silence. You are just waiting for the world to feel less painful. Identifying this difference is the first step toward genuine freedom. We've grown up in a culture that treats us like puzzle pieces, waiting for a matching edge to click into. You hear it in every song and see it in every movie. The idea that we are somehow incomplete until we find someone else to fix us. But people who truly love their own company have looked at that script and simply opted out. They don't see themselves as a missing half. They see themselves as a whole, functioning set. It's not about arrogance or being closed off to love. It's a quiet, radical self-awareness. When you stop looking for others to fill a void that doesn't exist, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You become the architect. The research from figures like Dr. Bella DePaulo suggests something that sounds counterintuitive. Those who embrace solitude often foster stronger external connections. Because they're not looking for others to meet all of their emotional needs, they avoid the trap of codependency. When you spend meaningful time at your own table, you bring a much more grounded version of yourself to other people. You aren't showing up depleted, resentful, or desperate for a partner to fix your internal emptiness. You choose to engage because you want to, not because you need to. This quality of connection is objectively higher. When you stop treating social interaction as a life support system, you finally have the capacity to be a genuinely supportive friend. So, where does this leave you? If you're the person who feels genuinely alive on a Saturday night spent with nothing but your own thoughts, hear this. You aren't broken. You aren't a social failure, and your preference for silence isn't a personality flaw. Your brain is simply wired to find restoration in places that others might call empty. In a world that never stops talking, the ability to genuinely sit with yourself is a rare kind of social intelligence. It's a superpower that allows you to live with depth, clarity, and intent. The next time someone questions why you prefer the quiet, you don't owe them an apology. You can just be yourself. Because, after all, liking who you are is the ultimate point of it all. You can watch the rest of this ongoing series right now over on our channel. Click the next video on your screen to keep exploring.